Alright, Shalom, this is the brother Atazawamya from GMS South Carolina camp. I want to first and foremost give all praises to Yahweh about Shemal Shai. Double honors to the elders Greg Millstone, taught me his truth. Shalom to all the Akim out there pushing the truth and sincerity. Alright, today's lesson, I want to go in about the draft. Okay, because what you see on the screen is World War III coming soon. Alright, and that's true. And we right around the corner from that, okay? And we can go through these this bill, all right, which is also known as the draft bill, all right, and show that it is part of the National Defense Resource Preparedness Act that was passed by Obama. This draft bill will be implemented under it. Okay. Alright. Meaning what? That when the next declaration of war, okay, against Iran, or when World War III comes, when it gets physical, they're gonna implement this, alright, and it's gonna affect everybody here in America. Okay. So, let's get into it. I'm gonna play this clip real quick. Alright, and then I'm gonna read these few articles or whatnot, and then I'm going to get into the scriptures.
Alright guys, it's time for tonight's Tool Time Award. And tonight we're giving it to somebody who thinks that our young adults should be drafted to save money. Thomas Ricks wrote an op-ed in today's New York Times. It's called Let's Draft Our Kids. And he's got a pretty thorough argument for a new conscription system. Now, this idea came about after General Stanley McChrystal called for reinstating the draft during last month's Aspen Ideas Festival. But McChrystal also isn't alone in thinking that the draft, again, could be a good idea.
One of the ideas that gained more traction than I expected was national service. It's something that General Stan McChrystal, Admiral Mike Mullen both talked about, and then Valerie Jarrett picked it up, and you could see it moving through the festival.
I'm serious about the draft because I do believe during wartime, if someone has to serve, it should be everyone has to be at least in a position to be liable to serve. It should not be left up to the weakest part of our community.
So, let's add Ricks to the list and explain his plan. He argues that there should be 3 options for college tuition. Number 2, they could opt to not be deployed, and instead they could perform office-style tasks that are currently held by contractors. For example, doing paperwork, mowing lawns, driving generals around, and other civilian tasks. And if they aren't interested in serving in the Army at all, Ricks proposes that they do other low-pay national service tasks for slightly longer. Jobs like teaching in low-income areas, aiding elderly folks, and cleaning parks. And if students choose the non-military route, they would still receive tuition aid. And then finally, there's number 3. If you're really not down with the draft, you can opt out. But under Rick's plan, youngsters would have to pledge not to ask for any social nets like Medicare mortgage guarantees or any kind of modified college loans. So in Rick's mind, we have so many 18-year-olds coming fresh out of school that America just doesn't know what to do with them. And sure, we have an unemployment issue, but what does he propose to actually solve this? Cheap labor. Actually, scratch that. It isn't even cheap labor. It's basically indentured servitude. We've already tried that during the colonial era. How about, as an example, right? We had young immigrants working for just food and board on the farms, and I can't say that that's necessarily a glowing part of U.S. history. But Ricks doesn't seem too bothered by that. So why, you might ask? Well, he says that this is going to help us fix our looming budget problems. Now, I say that Ricks has his blinders on, because I can think of a few other ways to fix our financial woes without a draft. How about actually cutting down on our military expenditures? If we want to talk about saving money, how about our bases? The U.S. has so many bases around the world that we literally cannot keep track of them. The most accurate prediction we can give is an estimate of at least $1,000, and that's on the low end of the scale.
There are no less than 1,077 U.S. bases or sites in foreign countries, and likely there's actually many more than that. We just can't be sure. I don't think anyone really knows the full cost. The Pentagon doesn't keep good tabs, actually, on all the miscellaneous expenses.
All right, so how about less war then? Sure, Rick says that his proposed draft will make people think twice, but we could just approach the less war stance from a more sane angle. I mean, we know about Afghanistan, Libya, Iraq, but what about the shadow wars, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia? On top of that, 3,000 troops are scheduled to train African armies next year. How about a plan for a smaller military, rather than a larger one that he's sort of advocating for? His argument here suggests that everybody would have to serve the country in some way. Let's be realistic. Do you think that those rich politicians or one-percenters are going to let their kids do dirty work with low pay? Well, a libertarian consultant out there named Stephen Gordon says if McChrystal thinks that every citizen is badly mistaken, somehow the rich and the elite will find a loophole. Historically, they always do. And I hate to put it so cut and dry, but Gordon's right. Everybody knows it. So keeping that in mind, Rick's plan would essentially be putting everybody who is not at the top, like the lower classes, the middle classes, into indentured servitude. Could it be any more obvious with that social safety net opt-out option? So yeah, just shackle poor 18-year-olds so they can be dragged into our already ridiculous military-industrial complex. That's basically his entire solution for our debt problems. Now, sorry for poking holes in this master plan, but having all men and women enlist in this modern-day version of slavery is not the solution. So if we're proposing a plan that would essentially require Americans to pay for their right to be a citizen, Thomas Ricks wins tonight's Tool Time Award.
All right. Okay. Now, I'm going to post these links under the video like always so you can go look it up yourself. Alright, but that was an Edomite, Tom Ricks. Okay. So now, it's getting pushed a lot, but you got Jakes. Alright, like this guy right here, Charles B. Rangel. Alright. Okay. He's been pushing this draft bill for the longest. It's just now it's getting more recent news because there's other politicians like this guy Tom E. Ricks, who the female was doing a report on. He and that other Edomite in the video, they're proposing it. Okay, but this is the guy that was pushing it the hardest for the longest. His name is Charles B. Rangel. Okay. Alright. He's a member of the U.S. House of Representatives from New York 15th Congressional District. Okay. He fought in wars and all this stuff. Alright. Okay. Prove he is Israelite. Rangel was born in Harlem in New York City. His father, Rafi Rangel, was from Puerto Rico and came to New York in 1914, while his African-American mother, Blancy Mary Wharton Rangel, was from Virginia. Okay, he fought in the war and stuff. Okay. So this guy's a Jake. He's a what you would call a so-called Puerto Rican. Okay, even though he refers to himself as an African American, which he's not. He's a what you would call a so-called Puerto Rican, or his biblical nationality. He would be from the tribe of Ephraim, from the nation of Israel, which are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay, so this Tom right here, all right, this Uncle Tom, this bootlicker right here, he's the one that's been pushing this bill called what's it called? Slocky. Which we're gonna read it. It's not a fairly long bill, so it's called the HR 5741 National Slocky. Universal National Service Act. Okay. Alright, so we're going to read these articles. Alright, now this is from 2009. Alright. Rangel to reintroduce military draft measures. Because we've been saying this for a while, for a couple of years now, that this World War III, they're going to have to re-implement the draft like they had for World War I, for World War II, you know, for Civil War, for the Korean, not the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Cold War, okay? Alright, so they want to reintroduce the draft, alright? And we're going to read the bill or whatever, it's not that long, alright? And just show that this is coming up, okay? And if you join the military or you get drafted, they're going to make you take that RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast, which if you take it, that's going to seal your doom, okay? And if you go to fight in World War III, you're not coming back, you're going to be destroyed, okay? So let's read. It says, make it a little bit bigger. It says, Rangel to reintroduce military draft measures. This is from January 16, 2009, so it's a couple years back. It says, Republican Charles Rangel, Democrat New York, or representatives like, says likely will introduce his controversial legislation to reinstate the draft again this year, but he will wait until after the economic stimulus package is passed. Asked if he plans to introduce the legislation again in 2009, Rangel last week said probably yes. I don't want to do anything this early to distract from the issue of the economic stimulus. Rangel's military draft bill did create a distraction for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat, California, soon after Democrats won control of Congress after the 2006 election. In the wake of that historical victory, Pelosi, said publicly that she did not support the draft and that the Democratic leadership would not back Rangel's legislation. She also said Rangel's legislation was not about reinstating the draft, but was instead a way to make a point about social inequalities. Okay, because just like the female that was getting in and going in about this guy, Thomas E. Ricks, all right, that the people that this bill is going to affect is the poor, which the poor is you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. That's statistically proven, okay, proven that you're an Israelite due to the curses, okay. That's one of the curses, you will be made poor, alright, the tail, okay, and that the rich elite or the rich will be able to opt out of this draft, just like they did in previous drafts, alright. And a good movie to get the understanding of what will happen when they implement a draft like this is to watch that movie Gangs in New York, which was based, the situation and stuff was based off of historical facts. The story for say of the people, you know, that's probably made up, but the things surrounding in that movie did really happen with the draft, them sending the Irish off and all that. So that's what it's going to come back to when World War III is implemented, okay, or declared, okay, because in this war America is going to be getting its ass handed to it, rightly so, because of all the unrighteous, wicked oppression that it has done upon everybody in the earth. So these nations are going to be giving it to them. So they're gonna have to implement this draft, right? And you know, the woman, she got upset because it says it's just a way to make a point about social